So we went to Cardiff, we saw David Byrne, and I swear to God, he's getting younger. Look at that. Us getting bigger. David Byrne is getting younger. There's not as much in my jug today because I put it on my head. I've been looking how much these headdresses are. They cost a fortune, so I'm going to make my own. Look at me. Right. Chapter 4. You might get more for your money today because I feel guilty about not having done anything for days. But I might get to the end of chapter 4 and change my mind. Who knows? Chapter 4, double checks. Yes, chapter 4. I'm definitely ill. She woke up having gone to bed struggling with aches and sneezing. Maybe the 4-day headache wasn't constipation after all. The trouble with being a parent was that you still had to haul your sorry ass out of bed and get the kids into the bath or out of the roses tin, dressed, fed and out before the school bus is a distant memory and school is closed for the day. That done, she went back to bed. She said, "Take a photo of the lilac tree for me," in a rather pathetic, ill way. Woke up about midday, took aspirins, went back to sleep. Woke up 2 hours later, felt sick, went back to sleep. Woke up at aspirin o'clock, took sneezing, sleep back to sick. That's pretty much how the day went. When she did manage to wake up, it was time to go to bed. Hence writing this the next day, in bed, surrounded by tissues and empty aspirin packets. The kids had been good. They had only argued 6 or 7 times. Nanny had cooked the tea, so they probably got exactly... Wait a minute. There's no editing. They probably got exactly what they wanted. This is definitely a diary. She was now downstairs on the sofa in a duvet watching the Jeremy Kyle show. He is almost as bossy as that rabbit from Winnie the Pooh, by the way. The peppermint tea wasn't working. She still felt sick. She realised that she had been deleting more words than she had been keeping for the last 20 minutes. She blamed the flu. She hadn't looked up writer's block, so she couldn't blame that yet. You slept with me and your boyfriend on the same day, but which one's the dad? Lie detector tests, broken homes, tears. She wondered how anyone could get writer's block in this society. Most people's lives would read like an episode of EastEnders, according to the Jeremy Kyle show. Would mine? Probably a very boring one about a depressed, frustrated artist who hated being divorced. Would that make good TV? No. She decided this was a good thing. Delete, write, delete, write. This is getting annoying. I spent the night with the police, not another woman. And that was supposed to be better. She didn't understand a lot of what went on in the world today. Why people couldn't be happy watching Agatha Christie dramatisations whilst making sock creatures, she didn't know. If more people were indoors at night watching reruns of Murder at the Vicarage, there would probably be a lot less actual murders at the vicarage. She knew what she meant. Is it lunchtime yet? Her appetite never waned for long, even when ill. Feed a fever, feed a cold had always been her motto. Slim fast, no trifle. I forgot to get on the scales this morning. I lost 1/2 stone before Christmas, so if I've only put that much back on, it's okay. If I've put more than that on, it's annoying. She went into the bathroom, stepped onto the scales, and had a tentative look. She had put on 1/2 stone. Good job she had lost 1/2 stone in the first place then, sort of. It was a bit annoying, but she had expected it, so decided to be 2010 about it and keep positive. She wondered if sneezing burnt any calories. She then wondered if she had any gold jewellery she no longer needed. The answer to both was no. Typical. To add insult to injury, she had just realised that she had miscalculated her word count again and was in fact 1,000 words short if she started on the 28th. She decided she must have started on the 29th. It was easier that way. 60,000? Her next book would have some kind of structure, she decided. This one was just fumbling about in the dark, waiting for a structure to present itself. She consoled herself with the fact that diaries didn't necessarily need a structure, and that if it was true her book was definitely a diary, an edited diary, hopefully lots of mundane things would present themselves to her so she could look at them through a microscope and find something funny about them. She wished she hadn't lost her first attempt. She knew there was some absolutely hilarious stuff in that. And not just hilarious stuff, she had actually done research for that one. It was quite educational too. She would make a concerted effort to find it. A few extracts from that would bring her up to about 10,000, 1/6 of her novel. She wondered how many words a novella required. She wished she hadn't bothered looking. She discovered that a novel isn't 60,000 words, it's between 50,000 and 110,000. Anything at the lower end wouldn't get published, as it's not big enough, and anything at the other end is too big and considered an epic. She would now aim for 70,000 words, apparently. She also discovered that you had to advertise yourself. You had to have a website, a book signing, write book reviews, go on local radio, and read to kids in libraries. This would do her anxieties a world of good then. The whole point of the book was to distract herself from her anxieties and depression. She had saved this particular informative website on her desktop for further reading. She knew she had to read it and know it and probably do it, but she couldn't really imagine it happening. Maybe she could wait until Richard and Judy did a competition or something and just enter her book into it. Cut out the middleman. Channel 4 had the time, money and relevant internet professors to advertise her book after it had won the competition. She could learn how to do all that stuff for her second book. She would have internet professor friends and probably know some Channel 4 producers by then. Panic over. It was bloody typical that Richard and Judy hadn't been on the telly for ages and neither had their find a new author competition thing. She tried to make a website. She followed all the instructions and picked an easy format, but couldn't even figure out how to change the background colour. Doomed. She gave making a website another go. Oh, I missed a bit. Feeling a failure, she spent a couple of hours in the depression forum, watched Harry Potter, played a board game with youngest son all covered in glue, then went to bed and started reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. She woke up, felt iller. No such word. Her back had gone click in the night and she was in agony. The 2010 feeling was subsiding. She gave making a website another go and actually made a bit of progress. It hadn't been her fault it hadn't worked last time. The background had worked straight away this time. She added a picture and some words. It was a start. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was brilliant. It was funny and a bit mental. She wondered how many words it contained. She had a sneaky look at hers. She was on target. Poor Carol had been freezing away in the garden all morning, apparently, weather girl. Nancy believed it. She was putting off taking a picture of the lilac tree, rose tree, and the green. Snow was due at 6 p.m. this evening. But if you actually watch the picture, they put white spots on the map where she lived at around 12 p.m. What did this mean? The clouds were hovering, awaiting 6 p.m. They didn't really have a clue what time the snow was coming, so put the white spots on dead early in case they got it drastically wrong and people got stuck. She had had to look up how to crochet a circle due to finding a pattern for knitting a cupcake. The icing had to be crocheted. The fact that crocheted was a word surprised her a bit. She didn't have a crochet hook either. She pondered on whether a knitting needle with a bit of cardboard stuck on the end would work. Probably. She suddenly remembered that when her back had woken her up last night, she had decided to learn how to play the recorder. She had one somewhere, and you could probably get cheap books on it. She had to help youngest son covered in glue to learn the scales. All good boys deserve football and face. All you had to do was learn where the holes on the recorder were, then blow. She decided to print out a picture of the holes and put it on the fridge. Jason was getting booed on Jeremy Kyle. It had been 1.5 days since she wrote anything after Jason was getting booed on Jeremy Kyle. She had spent a whole day making wool cupcakes. She hadn't needed to learn to crochet after all. She had adapted the pattern to incorporate what she could actually do with wool, which wasn't much, and was quite pleased with the results. She made 4 and put them on the cake stand. She decided to fill it up with them, take a picture and put it on her website, which wasn't finished and wasn't online and wasn't a website. She still had the flu or something similar, and it was snowing its head off outside. She was panicking about bread, milk and toilet rolls, so sent 13-year-old back from the cinema up the co-op. He came back with more teasers, chewing gum and a pot noodle. Panic over. It was freezing, but she only put the heating on when left armrest started shivering. Shivering only had one V. That had surprised her too. Jeremy Kyle had been particularly good this morning. He did a special on binge drinking. He met, followed and tried to help 2 of them. She had cried at the end, but realised it was more to do with her frame of mind than the programme. Jeremy Kyle should do more of these specials. Youngest son, all covered in glue, was sledging down a hill on a polystyrene surfboard. It hadn't worked last year, but the snow was different this year, so it was okay. She couldn't be bothered to argue. The snowman looked drunk. The left-hand side had started to melt, and he was lopsided. They took a picture of him in a pink cowboy hat and wondered whether or not to send it to Points West. They decided not to when they remembered that the pluggy-in thing that you had to have to attach to the camera to the laptop was missing. She wondered how her book would read. Was there a common thread running through it? Was there supposed to be? Was it too repetitive? Did it matter? She wasn't having a full-blown panic attack about it like last time. She was just curious. She completely forgot to be curious when left armrest saw a squirrel running about in a tree and woofed his head off again for ages. After about 20 minutes of After about 20 minutes of shooing the squirrel off, he curled up and lay down on a pile of dirty washing. He was, unfortunately, only a terrier. She could still see the washing. She still had 100 words of today's word count to do, plus 1,000 of yesterday's, not to mention 1,000 of today's, and she had just done at least 300. That equaled about 2,600 in a day to get her up to date. She needed to get to 10,000, 16. Well, less than that now. She had to do 70,000. She didn't know how to work out what 10,000 of 70,000 was. She would wait until younger son, all covered in glue, came back from sledging on different snow. She knew that was a load of boring numeric rubbish and apologised for it. Frozen ready meals cooked in a microwave for tea. She took comfort in the fact that they didn't do this very often, and it was only because of an act of God that she was doing it now. She wondered if mince and onion crispy pancakes would still be crispy or even mincy in the microwave. Frozen curry prevailed. Yuck. She had spent nearly all day in the depression forum today. This was a bad sign. It meant her book writing wasn't doing its job. Her thoughts were getting in the way of her thoughts. She knew what she meant. At least the woolly cupcakes looked nice on the non-woolly cake stand. She hadn't made any today. She was like that. She would add that to the list of things she had learned to do this year. Keep it positive and keep writing, even if you don't have anything to write. No one knew how long the snow was going to last. Apparently, it was only 2-somethings away from the Arctic or Antarctic temperature or something. Right, chapter 5. We're going to keep going. Nancy was way behind. She had gone back to work after a Christmas flu break and had not stuck to the 1,000 word a day plan. She had also lost the camera, so hadn't taken any pictures of the lilac tree. It was the 13th of January, so all wasn't lost. She was back on course with her diet and had miraculously only put 4 pounds on over Christmas. She had spent nearly 2 hours with the radio on and the local bus websites up and was watching the news, trying to find out if she could actually go to work today. Wiltshire had had another 0.5 millimetre of snow, so had typically come to an abrupt halt. The TV said check the bus's website. The bus's website said phone the bus company. The bus company wasn't answering the phone. It was still snowing and left armrest wouldn't go out. This was serious. Eventually, the bus company updated the bus company website. All buses suspended. Relax. Work phone. Team leader texted. This particular activity took a lot longer than necessary. Nancy's phone never had any credit. She had actually thought about putting some on yesterday as she was in town, but nah. She had to use her mother's. All the buttons were in the wrong place. When she tried to go backwards and delete a word, it saved the whole thing in drafts. It wasn't on predictive text. She had spent 3 years learning predictive text. She still typed any foot instead of any good every now and again, and was surprised to learn that she now couldn't do normal text. In the end, her team leader got 2 texts. Hi, it's Nancy BLD, and hi, bus suspended Nancy W. And one she left in the draft department as she had no idea what it said. She then had to delete a number of messages before she could actually send them due to all in-out boxes being full, due to mother not knowing how to delete anything ever. Relax. She had woken up in a sci-fi mood. Maybe it was due to looking out of the window and everything being covered in snow, and falling asleep just after reading a bit more of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The snow was even covered in snow. She thought about a world with no colour. That would make a good science fiction story, wouldn't it? Nah. She was shifting into a woolly cupcake mood rapidly. She hadn't done any more of her website. She needed to take some pictures and stick them on the laptop first. She decided it would be a forum to show off her creative talents in all their glory. Stephen the Sock Boy, woolly cupcakes, mosaic heads, the lot. Left armrest was getting on her nerves, and it was snowing again. She had bounced around a bit on the mini trampoline and had remembered it didn't do her back any good and made her wee herself, so she stopped. Both sons were in the snow now, and Inspector Morse had just died. She found herself involuntarily crying to this, so was pleased to see that Poirot was now on. This would take her mind off it. She decided to look up how many calories a tuna and mayonnaise sandwich contained. Tuesday the 30th of March 2010. What? No, she hadn't stuck to the plan. That much was obvious. She had stuck to her diet, however. She had not taken pictures of the lilac tree. She had not made a website. She had contacted the college. She had not committed to it yet. She still went into the depression forum. She now eBayed. After 5 minutes of scrolling through a book, she gave up looking for the amusing names she called her 2 children and her mother and decided an update was necessary. Firstborn equals tall one showing his pants. Secondborn equals smaller one starting to think about showing his pants. Dog, left armrest. Mother, slightly annoying but useful. Bloody hell, left armrest hurtled through space, knocking over Earl Grey and trying to get to the window cleaner by the throat through the window. She seemed to remember that this had happened before. Some things just never change. But some things do. She was currently listening to The Planets by Holst whilst downloading the best of Chopin onto iTunes. Spell check new iTunes. This did not help her current because every day I forget to turn that speaker off. So every day you're going to get that strange weird noise in the background at some point. iTunes, spell check new iTunes. This did not help her current conspiracy theory obsession. She had recently discovered that classical music helped with stress. Even Mars, though gritty, seemed to chill her right out. Smaller one, starting to think about showing his pants, had told her to chillax. More than once this week, her mother had guessed she had a period due, and she had posted twice in the venting section of the depression forum, once with an angry smiley. Something needed to be done, so she gave classical music a go. She reread the whole book through and was amazed how funny she was. She particularly liked the bit about waking up in the middle of the night with a bad back, deciding to learn to play the recorder. She had actually made this decision. All it took was recording of it to make it absolutely hilarious. It was exactly the same the other day in the cafe. Gone wrong Frenchie. You need to see this one. So cafe, I tried to do cafe with a little on the top for cafe. It just did a... Sometimes it's best to buy the book. You can buy it on lulu.com. With Jo from work. Jo was getting her third cloudy lemonade after a large hot chocolate and a sneaky look at Nancy's cappuccino. She was pregnant. When Nancy began watching the 2 people on the table opposite, she wondered if a publisher would allow her to write that they looked like inbreds. She decided they wouldn't, so choose to say that, even though they appeared to be mother and daughter, they could quite possibly have been sister and auntie, cousin and mother and sister, or sister and sister, and hope the reader would get it. This is a lot more PC. Every time they put food in their mouth, they would commentate to themselves about it, not to each other. They completely ignored each other. Mother, daughter, auntie, cousin, sister. Chip, bit of bread, egg, beans, chips, bit of bread. Daughter, sister, cousin, mother, brother, bit of bread, sausage, tea, egg, bit of bread. Then, as if planned, daughter's mobile phone rang. She looked at it, laughed like a maniac, passed it to mother, who looked at it, laughed like a maniac, then passed it back to daughter. Daughter then put it back in her pocket and continued with the food commentary as if nothing had happened. They never looked or spoke to each other throughout. When Jo came back, the whole episode had to be dramatised for her benefit, which was nearly a mistake due to the excessive amount of cloudy lemonade and the rather dramatic laughing fit which ensued. Nancy tried desperately to remember if a first aid trainer had mentioned anything about premature birth brought on by hilarity. Back to the point, the mundane is hilarious. Thank heavens for that, for Nancy's life was nothing if it was not mundane. She had nearly finished Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. She hadn't learned to play the recorder yet, but had bought some new artist pens and a polka dot pencil case. She would now Google pictures for inspiration. She knew what she wanted to draw, and she would draw it. It was like Christmas Day every day at the moment. Every day a little parcel whisked its way through the letterbox. eBay. Today it was an oversized purse with birds on. Yesterday was a monsoon blouse which she could nearly fit into. She was so pleased when she looked at her old purse and found a small bit of wearing in one of the corners. In a couple of days it would be another blouse and some boring things for big pants and small pants, mobile phones. She was currently watching a pair of jeans and hoped that **D was at work and not watching it too. It was exciting, though, when you know you are bidding against someone. She hoped it wasn't gambling, but she had her suspicions. Jeans won. There had been a battle, but quick typing fingers saved the day. Bank holiday Monday in April on the 5th. £4 heavier. She decided that cream eggs, blackcurrant cheesecake, burgers, chips, and 4 packets of chocolate-covered rice cakes a day would do that. Back on the diet today. This was good, as everyone knows it's easier to lose weight in the first week. She had to admit that sitting in a room full of Easter eggs was a challenge on the first day of her diet. She wondered if her life and consequently her book would be defined by public holidays, dodgy, unchristmassy Christmas trees, and Easter eggs. Undodgy, quite good, tasty, egg-shaped, unwrapped, wrapped, small, medium-sized, large, tasty, fattening, oh yeah, Easter eggs. The next bank holiday would be May Day. She thought, she wasn't sure. This would leave the room scattered with hand-knitted dolls, homemade fairy cakes, and a new goldfish. Her village thought it was necessary to celebrate May Day by knitting, baking, and selling fish to children. She would have to Google the significance of all of the above and decided on the spot that her next book would be a sci-fi version of the history behind the strange May Day celebrations her village and probably many others had decided to adopt, and winning fish with darts. This led to thoughts of Morris dancers. She decided to leave them well alone. A black and white film was playing in the background, yet another bank holiday tradition in her village. It was something about someone who had become a millionaire. Lots of people were trying to cash in on his success. She had tuned in too late to discover what his success was. Some were obviously crooks, but everyone looked like a crook in black and white films. They were American, and Walter was a butler. She had worked out the goodies and baddies by the way their trilbies were angled, and wished she could tell Walter not to trust the so-called bodyguards. They were quaffing, no red zigzag. She had spelt a word right. She now hoped she had placed it in the right context. Their trilbies in a most unseemly, obviously crook manner. And as for the girl, she wasn't wearing a trilby but was a crook. But they would fall in love anyway. What a load of rubbish. If this rubbish could become a black and white film, surely her book could become a book. Or was it doffing or quaffing? She couldn't be bothered to look, and decided her audience would decide depending on their personal level of academia. The woman without a trilby was a journalist. She was pretending to be nice to the new millionaire to get a story. They would still fall in love. She then wondered why it was holding her attention if it was so rubbish. The alternatives were people buying antiques to sell, selling antiques to buy, decorating a house to sell, selling a house to decorate, decorating an antique to house, housing a house to antique. It was all very confusing and predictable. She had overspent 3 days after she had been paid, so antique house buying was out of the question. Black and white morality tales it was. She had looked the film up but not decided to mention it, libel, etc. But thought mentioning the fact that it was a morality tale, as if she had known it all along without looking it up, would sound good. He had just found out she was a crook and had fallen in love. Here we go. Argument, then make-up, the end. Oh, wait, not quite the end. Millionaire gives all his money to charity. No argument or make-up quite yet. Smaller one starting to think about showing his pants was bored. An argument had ensued. She had half-heartedly asked if he wanted to do something. He said no stroppily. She would ask with more conviction in a minute. Well, that didn't work. He couldn't get his own way, we usage, so was now in the mother of all strops. Whatever, Nancy was back at work tomorrow, so of course today would be stressful. It was a natural order of things in this house. Stress. Hi, Green Tea. Good morning to you. Good afternoon from me. Nice to see you. See your little cat avatar. Right. Screaming, doors banging, screaming, swearing, doors banging, stress, swearing. She realised she was not currently finding anything funny in the mundane. Sorting out World War III meant she missed the end of the film. Oh, that's topical, isn't it? Less screaming, less door banging, less swearing. One tidied bedroom. 1 meal cooked. 3 loads of washing up on. 1 headache, 1 backache. 10 minutes in the depression forum. 1 extra boy and 3 cream eggs later. Bed. Sunday, the 11th of April. This is in 2010, by the way. She had decided to take a more relaxed approach to her book. A few lines here and there, and eventually it would be a book. No point in stressing out about it. She had enough other stuff to do that with. Pompey Blues and Chelsea Blues, something to do with football. Palacios, she wondered if he played for Pompey. It did sound Italian. She decided to give up even thinking about it. Left armrest had a small wrapped dark chocolate sweet too near her for comfort. It wasn't badly chewed, and she did have a period. What was she going to cook for tea tonight? She had a new wok, but typically no bean sprouts, so she couldn't cook anything in that. Boring. She watched MasterChef and was completely inspired to do a salad with flower petals. They would probably have sausages. Toothache. If it wasn't one thing, it was another. She wondered if it was her age. She had 2 days off work starting from tomorrow. I was never at work in 2010. She had started a collage with a smaller one starting to think about showing his pants. They had Susan Boyle as the sun, the Queen on a bus with some local thugs, and that woman off of the One Show, water skiing, attached to the bus. Nancy had ideas of starting a kind of Banksy-inspired cottage industry. Smaller ones started to think about showing his pants, just like taking the mickey out of the Queen and Susan Boyle. Beans on toast with rocket was about $5 a day if you added a glass of orange, wasn't it? Conscious? No. Couscous with roast vegetables would have been good if she hadn't have decided to experiment. Couscous, roast vegetables, pineapple juice and chili powder, it wasn't so good. Thanks, I'm full. Seriously, I had a toasty for dinner. Yeah, it's nice, seriously. Phew, couscous is filling. Good job the bin was starving them. The diet wasn't going as well as it had been. How many weeks after Easter could you say that you were having a break for Easter? Tomorrow she would definitely start again properly, definitely. She had her eyes on a dress which would only look nice if it was in a size 10, 10 years younger and without stretch marks. She could only realistically aim for one of the above. She would never go voluntarily under the knife, and she didn't believe the adverts that said some sort of expensive cream could get rid of stretch marks. Where did they go? On some poor unsuspecting woman who wouldn't buy the cream because they didn't believe the adverts, probably. She did seem to have more of her fair share of them. Only people without kids said you should be thankful for them. They are because you have children. So why did she have 10 years? Why did she have them 10 years before she gave birth then? Anticipation stretch marks, bloody stretch marks, and bloody women who didn't have them. Pudding. Monday the something of April, 21:25 o'clock. Today consisted of whole foods, nothing processed. Things off of trees, etc., except the tuna. She wondered why there hadn't been tuna trees in Hitchhikers. She had rushed around the shops after work trying to buy the ingredients for a new hobby, Thai cookery. She had lots of bottles of stuff and some chilies at home, but needed some sticky rice, mange too, and baby sweet corn. She had also bought some natural yogurt and some fruit for tomorrow's breakfast. She was quite proud of her pile of purchases, slowly chugging down the conveyor belt today. It was usually cakes and Diet Coke. She needed chopsticks and rice bowls. Rice bowls were easy, chopsticks weren't. After the third shop and the third time she had said, I'm going to open a chopstick shop in this city, to bored shop assistants, she gave up. She didn't actually. She managed to find some in the full shop and thought it sounded better in a book to say she gave up. After reading the above paragraphs written tonight, she decided that her calms were working because she hadn't lolled once, and she usually cracked herself up. It was probably time to go to sleep. She then read Monge 2 as if it were pronounced Mangy Tout, pronounced a T's, and thought that would make her leaders LMAO or ROF LMAO. She then wondered if anyone actually did do all that, or just, as she suspected, made a slightly audible huh, like she did when she found something vaguely amusing by herself. Huge green zigzag, that would make a good name for a band, Night. Saturday the 5th of June, 2010. It's like being in a TARDIS reading this thing, she thought as she began another fanatical writing episode after another non-writing, fanatical or not episode. She had not done anything to her website, had written a thread in a depression forum saying she wasn't going into the depression forum anymore, and had started a blog with the philosophical first post. What's a blog? She was addicted to eBay again. Hold on, got to place a bid. Okay, she just won some jeans for her oldest son showing his pants with only 7 seconds to go. That must have annoyed someone. Good. Hi, Rachel. Should she forget about publishing her book and stick it on her blog? What are the plagiarism rights regarding blogs? No point in even trying to answer that until she knew what a blog was. Pollyanna was on the TV, and that made everything okay. If only Hayley Mills could be cloned so every village, town, or small city had one, everything would be okay. Gingham dresses, plaits with ribbons, sunshine and manners. She was teaching the minister to look for the good in people, not the bad, showing an old miserable woman to make rainbows with sunshine and glass prisms, and helping an orphan boy bond with an old gentleman. All, it would seem, in one afternoon. Nancy wanted to climb right into the TV and join in the festivities. She wanted corn on the cob and a slice of that big cake made secretly by the servants due to the lady of the house being this particular film's nemesis. It was obvious that she would be Hayley's biggest conquest. All of a sudden, Nancy had an urge to paint all the woodwork in her house white and make cushions out of red and white checkered material. An urge, you understand, it would never happen. She looked around. Everything needed throwing away. Everything needed painting, cleaning, repairing, and hold the phone. Pollyanna had succeeded in making her feel optimistic, joyous, inspired, and happy, very closely followed by making her feel low, depressed, and inadequate. And it was now blatantly obvious that Hayley was wearing a wig. Typical. Camilla Parker Bowles. See, if you bought this, you'd see I was like messing around with how to spell it. Buy it. Lulu.com. What? Came to see where she worked a few months ago. She didn't curtsy, no one did. Well, one person did, but she would. Camilla was cool. Nancy had been quoted in the local paper as saying, now this is a true story. I was actually quoted in the local paper when Camilla Parker Bowles came to our work. It was a homeless shelter. I was actually quoted in the paper as saying, now wait for it. I've just met the queen to be. I'm being quoted in the paper and I say, she seemed like a nice woman. What? I'm an author. She seemed like a nice woman. Ridiculous. She was an author. She was writing a book, and that was the best she could come up with. She thought about how weird life is for a minute or two, and then made a cup of tea. She seemed like a nice woman. What a fucking idiot. 4 hours, 3 episodes of Doctor Who, one toilet brush, 2 pieces of Marmite on toast, 6 handfuls of Bombay mix, 3 cups of tea, and 4 arguments about dog walking later. She returned to writing her book. She then had to leave promptly to win a bench t-shirt with 6 seconds to spare. Okay, she can now relax. Well, until the chips were cooked. Smallest son covered in glue, thinking about showing his pants. Can I write some? No. If I die, this is him. If I die, it would be like, what would you think? You could read it if I died, small blue pants. No. Mum, the question mark is supposed to go in the brackets. No, I mean, is it? Nancy would then had to find all the question mark bracket misdemeanors and put them right. This is in capitals in strange writing. I must have walked off. Finally, I get a go at writing your book. You are. I'm annoyed with Mum for not putting the TV on. Grumpy face, smiley. The dog is sitting on Mum's lap with Mum threatening to smack his bum and then singing a song about it. What is this house like? Lol. That's my, I don't know, 7-year-old son. This is a time machine. Chapter 6, I think. God, you're getting a lot from me today. God, we're 33 minutes. That was a bit Masonic. Oh, no! The lilac tree has flowers on it, and I haven't even been near it with a camera since January. She thought that her book would more than likely be turned into a sitcom. Some of the humour would be compromised, but she would have sold her soul for notoriety, so whatever, not these days. She wondered who could play her. Victoria Wood. Oh, she's not alive anymore. Or that woman who used to be married to Jonathan Creek. She was funny. Was Linda Bellingham still alive? She checked her blog every couple of hours to see if anyone had commented yet. No one had. She checked her email to see if anyone had emailed her yet. No one had. Except the kind of people wanting to offer her the chance to win a holiday in Iraq. She didn't care if she only got an afternoon spot on BBC 40 or ITV 9. She would make sure everyone at work knew about it, and she could always write the times and dates on pieces of paper and leave them in banks, like she had done to try and promote her YouTube channel. Stickers in public toilets were an option, and of course a mention on her blog. Advertising sorted. Go on, get a bad neck here. 12,000 words was nowhere near 1. But it was also nowhere near 60,000. Keep going. It was June. It had taken 6 months to write 12,000 words. She was definitely not on schedule. She should have finished it by now and be on her second book. She kept this pace up. It would take her 12 times 6 equals 72 minus something or another. That means it would probably take approximately a lot longer than she thought. She definitely needed to focus more on this particular project and stop watching DVDs, reading Agatha Christie books, and drawing strange creatures in A3 sketchbooks. One thing at a time. Finish one thing before starting another. But she couldn't. If she felt like drawing, she had to draw, etc. This was technically the story of her life. She never specialised. She couldn't remember if she had talked about this in a book or the previous one, which she had lost. Specialisation gets you doctors and crime scene investigators. Non-specialisation gets you inventors of half-baked ideas, half-made sock boys, and 12,000 word books. Rubbish. She still had the photos of her phone of her younger son all covered in pants with tinfoil hats on. This was the I'm going to write a sitcom about a conspiracy theorist mum of two with a dog project. The photo, I actually did take photos of all my family and my dog in tinfoil hats, and I was going to send it to the BBC. So this, I actually do this. What I'm writing about in here is all true. I was fucking mental even bloody 10 years, 20 years. I don't want to know how many years ago this was. Right. Okay, I'll start that again. She still had the photos on her phone of her and her younger son, all covered in pants with tinfoil hats on. It's true. This was the I'm going to write a sitcom about a conspiracy theorist mum of two with a dog project. The photos were for the pitch. I honestly did this. She hadn't got round to writing the script. She also had in her possession an email. This is true as well. I did this. The following is true. This is all true. I'm insane. This is all true. I'm fucking mental. She also had in her possession an email she had sent to Uncle Ben's, you know, the rice people, describing a hilarious... I can still... If they'd have gone with this advert that I sent them, they would have made a fortune. My idea for an Uncle Ben's rice advert was so good. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a fucking idiot. But it's hilarious. I am hilariously stupid. Oh my God, I actually did this, right? I can't believe this. So she also had in her possession an email she had sent to Uncle Ben's describing a hilarious advert she had thought of to sell their rice. I did do this. She kept the reply from them, which had said, no, sorry, but with more words, just in case they used her idea and pretended it was theirs. I swear to God, I kept their reply in an envelope that I posted back to myself. So it was date stamped in a sealed envelope on the bookshelf. I kept that for about 15 years, just in case I saw my advert on Uncle Ben's. Evidence. For once, she wanted to... I need to tell you about the advert now, don't I? Because I don't think I go into it here, but I did actually do that. I did actually keep their reply just in case they used it. So, oh, I've lost my place. Christ, this is a chaotic one, isn't it? That serves me right for having a few days off. So, you know, Uncle Ben's rice commercials are all really boring. It's just like eating rice and shit. I had this idea that there should be this wedding, right? And they're all going to the wedding, and you know, they throw rice at weddings and things. Like, it's better than throwing that other stuff because it's biodegradable or something. I don't know. So you throw rice at brides at wedding, don't you? So I had this, like, they were taking the rice. Uncle Ben's, let's take the rice. And one of them's like, no, we're not wasting our Uncle Ben's rice on that. So they take the rice out. And when the bride walks down with the group, they just lob the empty box at her head. I thought that would have been the best advert for Uncle Ben's, because it's like, no, we're not wasting our rice on that shit. So they just chuck a fucking Uncle Ben's bride on the head. I thought that would have been a really funny... I thought that would have been a really good advert for Uncle Ben's. So if that ever happens, if you ever see Uncle Ben's use that was my idea. I've actually thrown away the evidence now. I suppose I've got the evidence in here. I thought that'd be hilarious. Anyway, moving on. I need a drink. Fucking hell. This was mental, isn't it? Oh dear, you got to laugh. I thought that'd be a really good advert. Oh dear, right, I've lost my place now. Christ, this one's delusional. Not delusional, another word. Morris Dancers, Diet Coke. I eat better these days. Yeah, here we go. I thought I was hilarious. Christ. Oh, I'm getting an echo. I'll sit up a bit. Oh, dear. Right, where are we? Uncle Ben's. For once, she wanted to finish something and have something to show for it. She wanted to finish her book and have a book to show for it. Harry Potter has caught the snitch. That just sounds wrong. It sounds like he's got some sort of... No, shut up. Everyone was iPodding. Just shows... This was 2010, remember. Left armrest was stalking his squeaky. Hayley Mills was saving the world, and Nancy was on a writer's high. Life was good. Where would people read her book? Was it a good holiday read, or more of a journey to worker? She refused to believe it was a curl-up in bedder. People read those to relax before falling off to sleep. Her book was way too hilarious for that. Her readers would be laughing so hard, how on earth would they be in a relaxed enough state to even think about sleep? Was it for intellectuals? No. Not enough research. She thought it might be for other mums like her. Then she remembered the sock creatures, the Uncle Ben advert and the lilac tree pictures, and thought that might be limiting her audience a bit too much. From a distance, the last couple of paragraphs looked quite long. She was a bit concerned that most of it was verbal diarrhea. I've spelt, see, if you buy the book, you'll see I tried to spell the word diarrhea. It was no good, and spell check wasn't helping one bit. How the hell do you spell diarrhea anyway? Eldest son showing his pants at the cinema. E-A. E-A where? D-I-O-R-R-O-E-A. No, a H, then an A. Big pants. D-I-O-R-R-O-E-H-A. Diarrhea. No, that isn't right either. Oh, well, it gave her a few more words in a conversation with her son. The Sunday night after a week's half-term at 22 p.m. o'clock heralds lots of minor tantrums, lots of minor teeth brushing, and lots of major guilt due to the uniforms not being where they should be. The PE kit still not being in the PE bag for over a week, and knowing that no one is going to do anything about it. Tomorrow morning is going to be a nightmare, but at 22:05 all is well. No one is asleep yet, but iPods under duvets make no noise. Relax. She'd just written a load of rubbish on her blog and was now struggling to think of anything at all to write in her book. Detroit. She had watched a documentary about it. It used to be quite rich due to them making a lot of cars there or something. So they built lots of houses and then lots of shops. However, they built them so far apart that you needed a car to get from one to the other. Everyone worked in the car factories. When the car factories shut down, no one had any money, so couldn't afford to drive from their houses to the shops, so left Detroit. It is now a very run-down place. Well, this was her take on the documentary. Because of this and her morbid fascination with rough places, people and things, she'd looked up some rough areas in Detroit, hoping to find some rough people and things too, and cut and paste into Google Maps, the one where you can see the streets. Well, that proved boring. Then she looked up where there had been the most murders and looked that up on the map. That was just as boring. She then managed to find herself on the Texas Death Row website, applying to be a pen pal to some of the inmates there. We've all done it. This is all true. Fucking nutter. Nancy was dangerous when she was bored and had access to the internet. She realised that if she typed the next bit, it would either be really depressing or not believed. She decided to type it anyway. This is all true stories. Your host is mentally unstable. Nancy read and reread lots of different Texas death row offenders profiles. We've all done it. She avoided ones who were asking for lawyers. She wasn't a lawyer. She avoided ones asking for romance. She never wanted a relationship with an incarcerated serious offender. She avoided the ones who wanted to escape. Okay, there weren't any of those really, but she would definitely have avoided them if there had been. She eventually found a potential pen pal. No strings, honest, bored, and wanting a pen pal. Oh, this makes me... Anyway, moving on. Right. Out of curiosity, she spent another 20 minutes looking up his prison and his crime, only to find out that he had actually been executed in 2007. This affected her more than it should. It still affects me now, that. This would not be something she could find the funny side of in a hurry. She didn't want to. She did want to record it, however. She did want to remember her nearly pen pal. That makes me sad. I would have wrote to that person, but it was dead. My nearly pen pal. Moving on. She had written the above 15 minutes ago. She had spent 15 minutes writing an email, 5 minutes watching adverts, and 5 minutes doing the mad stare thing at the Monopoly box. She wondered if whatever she would have written in the 15 minutes she spent doing all of that would have been any more interesting than what she had just written about, what she had actually done. She realised that might take 2 or 3 attempts to understand. Then she wished she had a Magnum. Ice cream, not gun. I am fucking hilarious, so you got to admit. How come I got depression? All I got to do is talk to myself. I'm hilarious. She had written the above. I've already read that, haven't I? She was easily distracted tonight. She was now blogging. She had just discovered how to add pictures to it. She had added a picture of a knitted snake sat next to a knitted caveman. She had bullied someone into leaving a comment due to not wanting to look as sad as she did in Twitter, where she left tweets to herself. She was following no one, and no one was following her. Idiotic. I tweet to myself and a reply. Now she was thinking about toast. How did people concentrate for 70,000 words? Maybe they just had toast. After 2 magnums and the whole without the toad, she felt sick, but she wanted another magnum. Left armrest was squeaking. That's my dog, if anybody don't know. She couldn't do anything about it. Her back was in spasm and she had just taken some of her mother's arthritis tablets. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, meant youngest son covered in pants was winning a particularly violent game on the Wii. She'd gone past caring. Well, she cared sometimes, usually when her back wasn't in spasm. She hadn't just got back from a particularly difficult day at work and hadn't consumed her own body weight in ice cream, eaten a whole without the toad, and wasn't as high-low as a kite on arthritis tablets. She'd gone past caring at this precise moment in time for a considerable amount of valid reasons. That bloody dog! She'd received another comment on her blog from someone she had told to leave a comment on her blog. This is the end for you meant the particularly violent game on the Wii involved Germans. She still wasn't caring that much. She had signed up for Martin's money tips, but couldn't be bothered to read the emails he had sent her, so probably wouldn't save any money. Bloody spam emails. Who the hell is Martin anyway? It was raining and this was good. She couldn't be bothered to go out. So when it rained, it stopped her feeling guilty about it. Bloody sunshine and barbecues and people liking each other. She was not in a good mood. It had a lot to do with golf and the World Cup. She spent 2 days alone and had discovered that Michael Jackson was alive and that it was all a hoax and had linked it to a site on her blog. Now what? Check to see if anyone had left any comments. They hadn't. She had left a link to her blog on her YouTube channel, which nobody viewed. She would have to up a virtual game. She was hilarious. She was a creative. She was mildly bipolar and could use all of this to her advantage. Her small spurts of creativity never seemed to amount to anything, and this was beginning to get boring. She was 39. Fucking hell. I was 38 when I was writing this. Like last year. She was 39 this year. Her aim was to have a book published by the time she was 40, or at the very least, have written 20,000 words. Right, in the US, if you ask for a Magnum, most likely I think you're asking for an extra large condom. Oh my God, it was just bloody guns and ice cream back in my day. Bloody hell. Oh, and some like bloke that was a detective. Yeah. Right. Blah, 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 blah. So her aim was to have a book published by the time she was 40, or at the very least have written 20,000 words. She knew which one it would be. That was rubbish and meant a quick trip to the depression forum where she wasn't going to go anymore. That was rubbish too. She had a coleslaw on her lip. You know what I mean? she had never had one before and it bloody hurt. The cream didn't work. The ignoring it didn't work. So she took someone at work's advice and put coffee on it. She now had a brown coleslaw on her lip, which smelt of coffee. Nice. She had a coleslaw on one side and a bit where she had been biting out of anxiety on the other. She had a big spot just to the left of her coleslaw and her eyebrows needed plucking. She wasn't feeling very sexy. Her back went into spasm 2 days ago. Diazepam and cheesecake for tea. This seemed to do the trick, as she just put the World Cup on voluntarily. She was watching some blokes in yellow playing some blokes in light blue. She had learnt the word vuvuzelas and understood the offside rule if she could explain it using a sugar mouse, a hairbrush and some salt and pepper pots. It was only a matter of time until she could win a vuvuzela at a May Day fete. Left armrest was licking her foot and she wanted more cheesecake. She would just have enough time to get some before they started kicking the ball about. Brace yourself. This is funny, this bit. What are we on? We're only on an hour. I'm just going to keep going. If people miss this bit out, they're going to miss the best bit. This is hilarious. I might have to do a short on it. That's funny. Well, in my memory, it might be shit. It's not. Right. They had only played for 5.5 minutes, and she had eaten so much cheesecake that she had felt physically sick. Oh, it'll pass. Talking about being in the TARDIS, she much preferred the Doctor Who. She much preferred the new Doctor Who to the old one. Matt Smith was that his name? She liked his bow ties and his weird hair. The other one was too funny. This one was funny, but he wasn't trying as hard to be, which made him funny without trying too hard. She knew what she meant. I feel sick, she said to her coleslaw. No one else was around and she was bored with football. Oh, maybe it's not the funniest bit. When I talk about the World Cup, that's funny. Right, hold on. Blah, 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 blah. She had just started another Poirot book. Maybe she would indulge herself in this for a bit. It would only be for a bit due to the diazepam starting to kick in. She wished she hadn't had the cheesecake and she wished she hadn't put coffee on her coleslaw. She wished she... You know I'm in cold sore, don't you? She wished she knew which way the yellows were supposed to be kicking the ball. Hold the phone. Where are the blue ones? The yellow ones were playing the white ones now. When they were singing, they were definitely blue. Ridiculous game. Not a sugar mouse to be seen. And why do they wear black elastic bands on their heads? After rereading the above, she thought about giving up for the night. Maybe she would do some more research into the fact that Michael Jackson isn't dead. No, in her state, she would only forget it by tomorrow. She had a quick spot-picking break just to make herself look even more like a freak. She then watched as a yellow kicked the ball to another yellow, who in turn kicked the ball to another yellow. This continued until a white got the ball. He then proceeded to kick it to another white, who then kicked it to a red. A red? Oh, okay, goalkeeper. Cunning. Oh, look, a slight lull in the vuvuzelas, said one of the commentators. There can't be many times in one's life when you need to say that particular phrase. The whites just kicked the ball into the net. The yellows looked depressed. The whites didn't. The red one was annoyed. The black one didn't care. And the orange one just looked stupid. Watching the World Cup through a diazepam haze was inspired. She might even get through a Grand Prix, a couple of snooker matches, and a few hours of carp fishing at this rate. My ex-partner was into all that bullshit. He was an arsehole too, eh? Nancy, underline 10. No new emails. Okay, she was bored with football and checking emails and not understanding the point of twittering. She decided to immerse herself in 1930s etiquette and read her Poirot book. And those bloody vuvuzelas can sod off. Chapter 15. I'm bored of doing it in the right order. I got fed up with looking back to what chapter it was. So. She was obviously on a bipolar high, as she had spent most of the last week making people read her book, comment on her blog, and laugh uncontrollably at her YouTube channel. God help her when she experienced a low. She would immediately regret this and be inconsolable due to feeling violated and vulnerable. Good use of V words. Left armrest had seen a hedgehog. Unfortunately, Nancy had been holding his lead at the time, and she was now suffering from a torn ligament in her right arm. Her bad back was back. Anyway, her bad back was back, and now she had a pain in her left shoulder. She literally felt like she had fallen off of a horse or bungee jumped without a bungee. No amounts of mini rolls or mini cheddars seemed to be helping, so she decided to console herself by watching Sesame Street videos. It was Sunday. Her coleslaw wasn't getting better, and she was constipated again. Is it any wonder by the shit I used to eat? If she was only sporty and healthy, etc., she was sure she wouldn't get half of the aches and pains and scabby things she was getting, if only. Someone had said she needed to cut out some of the commentary about word counts, etc. She totally agreed, but left them in. The thought of deleting words when words were what she was after caused her anxiety, and she didn't even care that the last sentence had a green zigzag from start to finish. Somebody else had suggested she put her book on her blog. Should she? She didn't know. Okay, I will now. Wait there. There, she had put everything she had written so far onto her blog. Well, it would break up the Muppet videos a bit. Blogs were easier than websites, she decided. She couldn't work out what the difference was, to be honest, so she didn't try. Her first attempt at writing a book was going to be called Take One Life. She decided that sounded a bit too professional for this attempt. She decided to call this one My Book. I didn't in the end. She thought that if she could find the lead that attached the camera to the laptop, she would put the pictures of the lilac tree and the snowman in. But what would she do for the front cover? Probably Stephen, her sock creature. Now that was sorted, all she needed to do was write like a maniac. She did everything else like a maniac, so that shouldn't be a problem. She had spent a fortune on curry accessories, puddings, potato snacks, and big inflatable England hands to sit down and watch the football with her two kids. Here we go, hilarity to begin. What a waste of money that was. The plan was to wave said inflatable hands every time England scored a goal. After a while, it was decided that they could be waved if the other team scored a goal. After a while, 2 out of 3 viewers were asleep, and the inflatable hands were lost somewhere amongst empty pudding packets and leftover onion bhajis. So much for getting into the spirit of things. Come on, England. Younger son, thinking about showing his pants, was upstairs and had been for several hours on his brother's ex-Nintendo Wii Cube 360 box. She knew she was being an irresponsible mother, but ouch, by the way. Her body was still completely aching due to her not being fit, not eating properly, and a hedgehog, so whatever, seriously, whatever. She then wondered if her writing about it and then typing whatever twice, once in capitals, meant she didn't think whatever at all, and that she was really thought shit on being an irresponsible mother. Whatever. Ouch, 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 ouch. What's the point of muscles if they hurt? She wondered if the readers had noticed that she had started putting question marks inside her speech marks. She then consoled herself with the fact that even though younger son covered in pants was on the Nintendo box for hours and hours, he had known about the question mark speech mark thing. Cool, he was fine. She was a good mother. Time for a mini roll. Oh yeah, she just remembered that she had to say somewhere in her book, I wish I wasn't actually myself so I could be my friend because I'm hilarious. She had said this to someone at work in all seriousness, who nearly fell over due to the egotisticness of it. She had at least had the humbleness to laugh at it, but still actually meant it. She wondered what the proper word for egotisticness was. Left armrest wanted to water the hexagonal planter again. BRB. That is short for be right back. That is long for BRB. Left armrest had absolutely no idea he had pulled her arm out of its socket by chasing the hedgehog, so thought it was perfectly reasonable to land on her lap with his squeaky in his mouth, awaiting the throw game. Typing was okay, throwing wasn't. He gave her a dirty look and walked off. Git, ouch. It even warranted a badly applied bandage. Nothing had ever warranted that before, bloody dog. Her blog was taken off. She had told her 3 favourite people in the depression forum, and they had started leaving comments. High five. The bandage didn't get her any sympathy. It just made her sweat. She told everyone the mini rolls were working as a mild pain reliever, as an excuse to keep eating them. Nothing interesting seemed to be coming to her in a literary sense, so she had spent 3 hours writing the last 3 sentences, and they weren't interesting either. Some woman was making a pizza out of a sausage on the telly. That was interesting. Yes, she decided to keep that in, as nothing better seemed to want to present itself. They were wearing glam rock clothes on Come Dine With Me, and that didn't help. How embarrassing. She knew for a fact, for an absolute certainty, no doubts, no ifs, no buts, no maybes, that she would never, ever, not in a million years, apply to be a contestant on Come Dine With Me. Mainly because she couldn't be bothered to hoover up. Her readers would have to know a lot about rubbish TV, she decided. She didn't even like TV that much. She liked Agatha Christie books. She wished she could be an author like Agatha Christie. She was a proper author. She researched stuff and had a plot and characters and a start and a finish and a middle bit that made sense. It was obvious that the start was a start, the middle was a middle, and the end was the end. In hers, she realised that it was all the same, just an accident whereabouts it ended up. The World Cup gave youngest son, covered in gluey pants, an excuse to stay up a bit longer. The vuvuzelas were really starting to get on everyone's nerve. Even the dog seemed cross. The dog seemed just as annoyed as everyone else about the ridiculous way grown men fell over and pretended that they had been severely hit in the face, leg, head, nose, back, or foot when they hadn't. They rolled over and over. They looked like they were going to die. They then got up. Footballers are wimps. She wished she hadn't spent £2 on the 2 large inflatable hands. She noticed creative writing courses when they were advertised, but didn't go on them because she had a sneaky suspicion that in order to be creative, you didn't need to be told how. It was the same when she did her art degree, contrived. If she'd been left to her own devices, she would not have ended up painting discarded street signs or hammering chilies to walls. Well, she might have done. She did sprinkle talc all over the front garden, then take pictures of it out of the window once whilst on an Easter break. Why the hell had her mother allowed her to do that? She would just write, even if it wasn't creative. So what? The government thinks the best way to stop people eating trans fats is for them to stop eating trans fats. Inspired. Every other country thinks the best way for people to stop eating trans fats is for them to take them out of food, not Britain. Britain thinks out of the box. Britain thinks that because I know there are trans fats in mini cheddars, sorry mini cheddars if there isn't, but I'm actually currently stuffing my face with them and can't bother to read the packet. Don't sue me, even if you up the trans fats, I'll still eat you. I would choose not to eat mini cheddars. That's not going to work. Here's my idea, already adopted by other countries. Take the trans fat out and I'll still eat them, but I won't die. Try that one. Cheers. Come on, England. We are facing an economic emergency, apparently. The Chancellor of the Exchequer had just told her, bloody hell, she had spelled Exchequer right. That is the first time she'd ever had to type Exchequer in her life. Spell check had reminded her, however, that Chancellor and Exchequer needed capital letters. Thanks. She had personally been facing an economic emergency since she bought that Israeli spinner thing, so who cared? I can't remember what that is. Sounds a bit wrong to me. Hi, Sophie. She had mentioned to Nancy that she wanted a personal mention in her book. Can't remember who Sophie is either now. Heat waves were depressing. I can. Everyone in Come On England was skinnier and browner than her, and heat waves proved it. No need, sweat and burnage. That's what heat waves meant to her. Heat waves make you eat ice cream, then make you feel guilty because you can't fit into shorts. And shorts you can fit into should never have been made. Maradona looked like an Oompa Loompa. She couldn't remember who said it, but she had remembered it was hilarious enough to stick in. Aren't other countries' national anthems weird? She didn't actually say that, she just thought it. She had heard a lot of them recently due to all the recent ball-kicking hyperactivity. She then thought that hundreds of people had probably thought the same thing, and some of them may have even said it out loud. Fair play. No one knew where one of the inflatable hands was now, and England had only played twice. She was finding it difficult to write anything tonight. Something had just been pushed through the door, which had sent left armrest into space. She could save £1 on Weed Killer or something. Due to reading a lot of Agatha Christie novels, she knew that there are a lot of things you could do with Weed Killer. Well, not a lot of things. Mainly kill people. From reading the thing just pushed through the door, she knew you could kill weeds with it. Brilliant. It was a Betterware book. She wasn't sure if there could possibly be anything funnier than the slipper that you put both feet into, but she was going to look. She was wrong. There were hundreds of hilarious things in the Betterware book. There was the belt clip to hold your tennis ball in, the meerkat, which was supposed to look like it was coming out of your lawn, and the wooden eyes and nose and mouth that you attached to your tree, so your tree looked like it had a face. She wished that she had a word processor could do one of the smiley faces that showed you were cynical. It has one eyebrow raised and isn't amused. Typical. She had an opportunity to wave an inflatable hand about, and she was at work. Could you wave it at a repeat? Would it feel the same? Was there a repeat? Oh, sod it. She would find the appropriate place in the Inspector Linley mysteries to wave it. Was the autopsy an appropriate place? She wondered how much someone got paid to walk in front of the camera dressed as the doctor. The corpse was moving. Now, that definitely warranted a wave of an inflatable hand. She wished she had bought the plastic Vuvuzela too. If she ever managed to finish this book, it would be a miracle. How exciting when she finally got there, though. She would have accomplished something for the first bloody time in her life. She had to keep going, even if she ran out of Betterware books and humorous names for the different members of her family. Uh-oh, the nurse was going to be bumped off by the murderer. Mexican wave. She had a sudden urge to go to London at night. It didn't last. She was scared of a village at night. Why did interesting places have to be so dangerous? Everywhere that wasn't her village was an interesting place, except for Trowbridge, and she didn't like the pedestrian part of Portsmouth, too big. Was it Portsmouth or Plymouth? Anyway, it was too big. There was too much room to move around in. It took ages to get from one place to another. It took 2 minutes to walk down the entire high street in her village, and that was at a very slow pace. You still managed to walk past about 4 pubs in that distance, however. She was pretty sure it was Plymouth. Yes, it was definitely Plymouth. Portsmouth had boats. Plymouth had boats too, but Portsmouth had the boats, the famous ones, the old ones, and the new ones with the big round things on, radar. No, it was definitely Plymouth she had the problem with. She checked her word count and made a conscious decision. There and then, she was aiming for 60,000 again. It was a nicer number. When she got to 20,000, she could work out how far she had to go. That would be harder with 70,000. She was tired of mumbling. She was well aware of this fact, but hoped the readers wouldn't be. Then she realised that they would, so she decided to stop for the night and read her Agatha Christie novel again. Right, it's not the end of a weird chapter, but it's the end of me. Well, not the end of me. I'm going to stop at those zigzags. So, oh, that was pretty hilarious, some of it, wasn't it? So me trying to make the mundane hilarious. I think I succeeded a couple of times there, not going to lie. So now I'm going to get a cup of tea. But thanks for watching now or in the future. Bye.